You're listening to Three's a Crowd, the North East Footy Podcast, with Rye for Borough, Steve for Newcastle United, and Ted for Sunderland. Rye from Borough?
Yeah. I think they should be called Twos Up now.
Like that'll get a different kind of audience, Steve. Maybe something after 9 p.m.
Double trouble.
That's a bit more like, makes us sound like a pair of strippers then, like. But good morning anyway, mate. Good
morning, mate. Morning.
As we know, Rye's actually working today. Can you believe that? He actually has a day job. Somebody hired Rye to do a job seriously.
Is he a food tester?
He must be. He's got to be.
The food that he eats on this show.
Apparently it's something to do with logistics, which are. He must have a little brain box on him as well as being a gobshite as well, like. But,
yeah, definitely.
Well, may as well, I suppose, cover off Middlesbrough. Speaking of Rye, like I watched the game last night. I don't know whether you watched it, did you?
No, mate. I was washing my hair.
Okay. Things would rather do than watch Borough. Well, there was nothing else on, so I did watch it. Like, I've got to say, I was kind of impressed. Really? You know, the beat a very good Ipswich side. First half in particular, I thought Borough were excellent. So they shook off that hangover of getting beat before the international break. And to be honest, mate, that's I guess Rye's a dead tester. Oh, we'll have to ask Mrs. Rye. So yeah, listen, I think they're back on track, mate. I think it's all looking good. I thought the quality of the performance was excellent. Yeah, I think they're well on their way to getting Premier League football. What do you reckon?
I mean, it was a good result for them. I mean, I kept an eye on the score, obviously. And I mean, they took the lead, didn't they, just before half-time.
Yeah.
Morgan Whittaker increased the lead in the second half, and Dara O'Shea made it squeaky bum time in them last 15 minutes. But I guess from Middlesbrough's perspective, like we've said for the last few weeks now, it's about getting that momentum and keeping the momentum. And they've got teams breathing down their neck. The beauty of yesterday's result is that, you know, they've opened that gap again between them and third place, which is what they've got to do. Coventry, of course, breathing down their necks, 2 points behind, win today, and they're back above them. But it's all about keeping that, you know, gap between you and third, because you want to go up automatically. It's no good, you know, going up in the playoffs or having to go in the playoffs. It's great if Sunderland had that luck last year and fortune to get to the playoffs early and then rest players and you know, they had their game plan and they did it well. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting season, and it's finding that kind of momentum, finding that consistency. Coventry at home today, you wouldn't expect them to drop any kind of clanger today against Blackburn, but sometimes that's the games where you struggle to get those points, where you go in that little bit too confident, thinking that the 3 points is yours, and it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But yeah, you've got to fancy Coventry to possibly, you know, tip the scales, and it could come to the games between Coventry and Borough, couldn't it? Really, that's the bottom line. That is always going to be the benchmark. But looking at the chasing pack, you've got Leicester, of course, Premier League side in all but name. You've got Preston, you've got Stoke, you've got QPR, all in that chasing pack at the moment. You would imagine Stoke, QPR, Preston are going to fall away. Leicester, you would imagine, are going to be there or thereabouts.
Yeah.
And you know, when you look further down as well, it's got a very championship feel. It's no disrespect to the teams like West Brom, Millwall, Ipswich, Bristol, Watford, but it's, you know, it is a strong division. But those teams that you would expect to be stronger, Southampton. Norwich, of course, you know, they're like a proverbial yo-yo club. Sheffield United, I guess, you know, in recent years have been in the Premier League quite a bit. Those three teams are all struggling. Sheffield United, bottom of the league. Southampton 17th and Norwich 19th respectively. So, you know, it's a strange looking division at this moment in time. But we're only coming into week 10. Lots can change in that course of time, and I still have a fancy for Millwall being a bit of a dark horse this year. I don't know why, but they've been there or thereabouts in years, and they've had their ups and downs. But I've just got a little suspicion that Millwall could make a little run for the playoffs this year. Just something tells us that you can't write Wrexham off. They've got the money, they've got the owners, and you're looking at Wrexham thinking, yeah, where are they going to be this year? But there's Roger, you're all right. Those names that have all got Premier League experience, and that's the thing. Derby probably to a lesser extent, back in the day, Blackburn, of course, were Premier League champions. But it's fascinating. It's a fascinating division. But like you said at the start of the show, well done to Middlesbrough. They are on course at the moment to join us in the Premier League, which would be fantastic.
It would as well. And not the only thing that was a good result for Borough last night. It seems all of the fans like the new badge that's been released, which is, to be honest, exactly the same as the badge I remember. I can't see too many differences. It's back to the old circular pattern. There's rumours as to why that was ditched, of course, but I don't think we can mention any of that on air. But
all right, okay.
Well, there's something to do with Steve Gibson and some legalities of who owned the rights of that original circular badge and all that sort of nonsense.
Right.
Well, so that guy who we used to work with used to say anyway, like, so you got to take it with a bit of a pinch of salt.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice to see them return back with a bit of a traditional look, some nice touches in the badge as well, with like sort of references to the Teesside area, although they seem to have missed out the smog and the chemical works, which is a bit of a shame. Like, cue the abuse from Teesside. So yeah, mate, international break's done. Couple of little injury concerns for us, to be honest, off the back of that. Siddiqui came back with a sprained ankle. Apparently, it's not as bad as it was first reported. And Alderete came off at half-time for Paraguay, I believe, in their World Cup qualifier as well. But according to that, there's no fresh injury concerns off the back of it. What about Newcastle? I mean, are you just relieved that's over and everybody seems to be back? And obviously, some good performances from the Geordie players on international duty as well.
Yeah, I mean, luckily for Newcastle, injuries-wise, we seem to be on the up. It's not as bad as it could have been. I think the problem that we're going to face today with a 3:00 kickoff at the Amex in Brighton is travelling. Joe Linton and Bruno both had long distance trips to South Korea. Bruno, I think, has done something in the region of 30,000 miles. I think Joe Linton's probably topped that by about 5,000 because his flight got turned around and he had to go back and start again. So, bit of a nightmare for Joe Linton. But there was concerns that Joe Linton had a bit of a knock, but he returned to training yesterday, gave himself the all clear, so he's fine. Sandro Tonali was potentially, battered and bruised in the game, but he played on and he's fine. Lewis Miley, there was a doubt over him before, the international break that there might have been some kind of injury. He is okay. So the walking wounded, if you like, have come through all right. Jacob Ramsey returns to the squad today. He's been back on Tyneside training for the last 10 days, so he's fit and raring to go. There was a talk of him potentially playing in the last game and being part of the squad, but he wasn't risked. As for Willis Hula, he's got a slight ankle injury, but nothing that's preventing him from training. They've been monitoring him and being very careful with his training. But Eddie Howe said yesterday at the press conference that if he was called upon, he would be fit to play. So that's good news. Lewis Hall, Tino Livramento and Johan Wissa all remain sidelined. Wissa and Hall are both penciled in for a return before the November international break, which is good news because obviously social media went into a meltdown about Johan Wissa saying that it was an ACL. Eddie confirmed it's a PCL. I mean, this has got all the hallmarks of when a metatarsal became a thing because most people are going, what the hell? A PCL? Suddenly now everyone's a doctor on social media. Some people saying that a PCL is worse than an ACL. It's better to have an ACL. I've never heard anything, to confirm that.
Get sort of Quincy.
Ridiculous. But yeah, Eddie confirmed it's a PCL, so it's not as bad as an ACL, is what Eddie said. So that is good news. And obviously, it means he's going to be back, before the international, just after the next international break. Livramento's comeback is still anticipated to be in December. The Lewis Hall thing, I think, is a bit concerning. I think this is the kind of thing that happens, of course, with players. We end up with a situation where players are, young players, especially if they get an injury, they pick up an injury, and then, because maybe it's their first one, they then maybe pick up another one quickly because, that they're having to heal. And I think as well, I'm going to chuck it out there, but growing pains, I think, is half the problem with a lot of these players. A lot of these young lads, Miley, Livramento, Lewis Hall, they're all bands. Do you know what I mean? They're all kids. They're still growing. And, again, I just think that can be sometimes detrimental to the healing process because, they find that, maybe their gait, if you like, is not right. Yeah. The way that the run is different. And things can change, and it can change the way that a player is developing. So I think that's why you're always very careful not to bring a young kid on too quickly and not to push him to play X amount of games, despite...
That ruined Michael Bridges. I still say to this day that ruined Michael Bridges' career, that there was too many games too soon. And
that's it, isn't it?
When he was at Sunderland, Peter Reid looked after him well in that sense, but when he moved to Leeds, I think he just got too much game time, mate. And it, I think it does. When your body and your bones are developing, hark at us being doctors now, there is a lot of strain put on them. So, I agree with you on that one, mate. They've got to be looked after a bit better, haven't they?
Yeah, and I just think that's why Eddie Howe and the people that he's got behind the scenes are being very careful with Lewis Hall, and I think it makes sense. Yes, it's frustrating, especially with the injury to Livramento, and yes, it's frustrating for Lewis Hall because those two probably would be on the plane to the World Cup if they'd had an unblemished run in the team for the last few months. But Lewis Hall missed out on a cup final due to injury, so he's never really improved. He had a bit of a pre-season, but there has been a setback, so that's disappointing. But everyone else has come through fine. I think Voldemort comes back with his tail up because he got a goal for Germany. He had a bit of stick out there, of course. Probably the worst German team I've ever seen. But, he scored the goal, the 1-1-0. It might have gone in off his back, but who cares? He scored. He was in the right place at the right time. So he's continuing his goal-scoring run. So, it's all positive. And Eddie had a few players to work with on Tyne side as well. So I think that's positive. But I did laugh yesterday at the press conference as well. That phrase came out again from Eddie Howe. Whistler's back on the grass. I mean, what in God name did that mean? He's still not available till the next international break in November, but he's back on the grass. What does it mean? He's taking his dog for a walk. I don't know, but back on the grass. Everyone seems to get carried away when you say he's back on the grass.
It's true. I noticed with the Germany game, actually, Voldemort got a first taste of some Sunderland defenders, and likewise the other way around as well. Obviously, the game against Northern Ireland.
Dan Ballard scored against the two Sunderland centre-halves.
He did. Let that be a lesson. He scored against our third choice centre back. That's right. Yes. Well, actually, should we mention about the derby? Because actually, that seems decent time, and that we got the news that I think everybody was kind of expecting anyway that we weren't going to have a 3:00 game. Here we go.
I can't wait, mate, to get back to the stadium.
You did say, I've got a couple of things lined up. I just want to see your reaction. Yeah, and that's...
I mean, genuinely speaking, if you roll the black and white carpet out for a game for me, mate, everything will be fine. Thank you very much.
13 minutes, this niceness lasted. But yeah, so the game's moved, the first one in December, mate. I don't think anybody was really shocked by that. But so it's now a Sunday kickoff, 2 p.m, if correct as if I'm wrong.
Yeah, 2:00 in the afternoon on the Sunday. No surprise there. I mean, it's a good opportunity for Sunderland to give us a good early Christmas present. It's a 2:00 kickoff, which is no surprise. It's never going to be any later. I was surprised it wasn't 12. I've got to be perfectly honest. And we'll be interested to see what they do, with the away fans as far as we're concerned this time round. Whether we get the bus treatment again, because obviously the FA Cup we were bussed down, and it was a very successful operation. Fans didn't come into contact with each other at all, and the club put on, the club gave all the Newcastle fans a free scarf and a bottle of water when they were queuing up. It was well organised though, and I just wonder whether that is what will happen this time round. It'll be interesting to see. But yeah, look, I can't wait. I do enjoy Derby week. I really do. I always enjoy the Derby matches, win, lose, or draw. They're always great games. They're always great occasions, and I count myself very blessed to be in the position where I've always been to the games. Since I started supporting Newcastle, I haven't missed a derby match yet. So it's great, home or away. So it's great, and even the infamous fan ban one, I managed to get a ticket off a very good friend at the stadium at Roker Park, to get along to that game. And I did keep my mouth shut, and I was well wrapped up, put it that way. But I did see a wonderful 2-1 win that night. But yeah, I've been there and done it. And
Peter Beardsley, if correct us if I'm wrong, Peter Beardsley on the score sheet that night. Yeah.
So that's 2-1. It was a good. It was, but for me, it was eerie being there with no Newcastle fans. There was
you need that, man. You need both sets of fans there. And I think you're right in what they're saying. I think that bubble treatment worked well. Obviously, it's going to be a lot less fans allowed this time because it was FA Cup, whereas obviously the Premier League will be a much lower allocation, probably around about 1,500, maybe 2,000.
Yeah,
they'll probably allowed for that one, roughly. Roughly.
Yeah, I think it'll be around about 2,000. Yeah, I mean, it just depends. It's the one you'll always sell all your tickets for that one, so we will get the minimum allowance for an away end allocation.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it. It's my birthday weekend, so hopefully it's not ruined by an abject performance like it was in the FA Cup. But I think it's a very much a different. It's even a different club now to what it was back then, Stephen. We're not talking that long ago. You know how despondent I was that season with the Michael Beale thing and just the way things are run. Obviously, we joke about it now, but the whole debacle of the way that the management of the bar being painted black and white and things like that. It was listen, it's a different feel about it, and I think there's a bit more optimism, or certainly not thinking we're going to go into it and get absolutely spanked this time around. So I think that's at least a positive. Peter Griffin. I heard Diarra has picked up a lengthy injury. Is this true? He is actually out till December. So they're thinking he will be back on the grass.
On the grass.
Back on the grass before then. It's not. It did require some surgery. He's kind of up and about. The club are all very much upbeat that he'll be back for December. I think he'll probably miss AFCON. I don't think he'll kind of risk that. So I don't think he'll be back in time to travel for that. So it's one player less that will be on the plane going to the AFCON. How many of the Macklins players will be away? It's a great question, to be honest. Injuries permitting, I think it's around about 6 from the squad. So it's not all first teamers, granted. We've got players who are stepping in already to fill in positions. Obviously, the likes of, we spoke about this last week, Steve. It's important the likes of Chris Rigg gets game time around about now to allow for these gaps that's going to appear come AFCON. Look, it's not a case of these players are going to be missing for like 6 to 8 games. Not everybody gets through. There'll be people going out in some of the group stages. Some of the smaller countries, with all due respect to them, will be out after a couple of games. So we'll be getting players back in a gradual process over December. And obviously, with the likes of Robbie, Gertruda, people who are just starting to get a little bit of game time now, we've got roughly the resemblance of a squad that can actually fill some gaps for them as well. So yes, it's big as Diarra. It's right you mentioned Diarra. He's our record signing. But I think it'd be a bigger loss if we lost somebody like Siddiqui at this moment in time for any length of period. Maybe there's a chance for Dan Hill to grab his opportunity. Look, I'm not going to sit here and pan Dan Neil. I have been known to do it in the past. There's a lot of pressure on Dan Neil because he was the captain. He's a local kid. But there's a lot of pressure on him, and I just don't think that the standard is there. I think maybe needs a bit more experience. Maybe he's getting a loan move into a decent championship club will be good for him. I just don't think the Premier League quality is there for him. And at the age he is now, what is he, 24, 25? you're starting to run out of years where those players are developing. And he's now becoming the final product, and there's a question mark over him for me, whether he's got the ability to play, especially after you've seen the likes of what the performances that Siddiqui put in, Diarra, Xhaka. They are the top draw centre midfielders, and I just worry about Dan Neil. I think he's got a role to play in the squad, but right now he's just a number on the squad sheet, which is quite sad, really. But yeah, it's you never know. He might get his chance, but I think the faith has been put into Chris Rigg more than anything else. I mean, Steve, you've seen this exact same thing yourself with Longstaff, where there's that bit of pressure. There's that kind of like question mark thinking, are they the answer to what we need right now? Or right, you guys are going for like Champions League and things like that.
Yeah,
we've got a slightly different problem, but the standard question is the same thing, and there's obviously that little bit of pressure that we've spoke about so many times about him being a local lad, and all the additional pressure that comes with that.
I mean, first of all, I'm hoping Grant Xhaka gets called up by DH Congo. I'm sure he's got a grandma who used to live out there. Anyway, if not, I'll be emailing the DH Congo before the derby about it. Joking aside, the local lad syndrome is a thing we've suffered at Newcastle. I mean, the players that get through, and I think a lot of people who watch NUFC Matters will agree with us, who were in the chat this morning, that it just seems easier. They seem to be the scapegoats. They're the ones who get the criticism. Longstaff got a load of criticism, certainly in those last 18 months. And I mean, it was undue because, I mean, the kid was every time he pulled the black and white shirt on, he was doing his best. He was giving his heart and soul. Sometimes he give away the odd straight pass, but, he did a lot of the dirty work, Longstaff. But it just seems whenever a local lad breaks into the team, he's the one who gets the criticism the most. So it is difficult. Derby matches as well, though, they're vital. Big Dan Burn in the dressing room for Newcastle on a derby game is worth its weight in gold, because any player that's come to the club in the close season won't have experienced the Tyne and Weir derby, and they will really look at this and go, it's just another game. Not when Dan Burn's in that dressing room explaining how important it is. And any player who takes part in the derby and is part of a winning team, if they're ever out at the bridges or the Metrocentre, they will literally, they'll never have to buy a drink again if they were at a bar in Sunderland or Newcastle, respectively, if they're the ones who scored the goal in the derby. That's just the way it is, I'm sure Gary Rowell never had to buy a pint in Wearside.
Still doesn't.
Beardsley won't have to buy a bar of chocolate in Marks and Spencer's in Newcastle. So it's one of them. It's just those hat-trick heroes are more special than anything else. But the likes of Liam O'Brien for us, Ryan Taylor, those two spring to mind because of their wonderful free kicks. Scott Sellers, they are literally heroes in recent times for Newcastle. So, and those guys, literally, people just never forget them. Liam O'Brien can't ever. He can't believe it. He didn't have the greatest of career at Newcastle. He was a solid player in a bad time. But you know what? Yeah. He never gets sick of people coming up to him and talking to him about that free kick. And it's great. That's what it's all about. So the derby brings so much positivity to the region in lots of ways. If you get beaten the derby, it's disappointing. And, local lads feel it more because, the likes of Dan Burn has to, speak to his dad, his brother, his best mates, and they're the ones who suffer more than maybe those foreign imports who come in.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I cannot wait for it personally because it's the first it's the first Premier League derby since I actually moved to Cyprus, and I can't wait for the people who I go to the pub with and watch the football with. I can't wait to just to let them witness what that atmosphere is like. And all right, yeah, you've got to watch it on the TV, but I don't think for me it's the best derby in the Premier League. You don't get two rival cities like that. Liverpool, Manchester United probably used to be, I think, because of the way corporate has gone now. And let's face it, Anfield's good for about the first 5 minutes till they've sang the one song they know, and then that's pretty much it for the rest of the game. But for us, for the Northeast, it's brilliant, mate. I really, really can't wait for both games. I mean, I'm hoping to get over for the away one at St James's, but let's see how that pans out as well. But speaking of the Geordies, mate, you got Brighton today, who are they're smashing it. They're actually having a really good season again. Danny Welbeck must be rubbing his hands, mate. He's going to tell everyone he's a closet Mackham, and is he going to score the winner again?
It's funny, isn't it, Danny Welbeck? That really has become a big thing. And there's a little known fact about ex-England footballer Danny Welbeck. His dad was a bomb disposal expert called Stan.
Jeez, come on.
Yep, Stan Welbeck. There we go. I knew you were going to mention Danny Welbeck.
You've been waiting for that.
I was prepared.
I'm getting too predictable.
Brilliant. So yeah, Danny Welbeck, he's a nightmare. We've got James Milner waiting for us down there as well. 643rd Premier League appearance he made in Brighton's last fixture at Wolves. So the 39-year-old former Newcastle player is actually 10 now behind Gareth Barry. He played 653 Premier League matches. So he might feature today. But yeah, I mean, 8 games in the Premier League at the Amex, and Newcastle United have not won. It's 5 draws and 3 defeats at the Amex for Newcastle. Wow. So for me, with the form of both teams and Newcastle's current 0-0 run on the road, 3 0-0 draws on the road, it's going to be a tight game, this one. It really, really is. I think if Newcastle draw 0-0 today, I think they equal Notts County's record from the 1930s, 4 0-0 draws in the first four away games. But I think that was in the old Division 1 or Division 2, not sure. But yeah, there's definitely a record there to be broken for Newcastle. Brighton are doing well. They're unbeaten at home, and if you count the back end of last season, I think they're unbeaten in the last 7 games at the Amex. They beat Man City this season 2-1, and I think they got a couple of draws. I think one was against Spurs, if I remember rightly, and one was against Fulham, 1-1 and 2-2. So yeah, they're a tough nut to crack. They are missing a couple of players today. Solly March, Adam Webster, Brazian Grud's still out. Jack Hinchelwood is out, but Matoma's back, which he's a
quality player, man.
He is a really good player. Joel Veltman is back as well. They've got an injury problem from international duty. Diego Gomez is doubtfully got a knock on international duty. But yeah, I mean, Fabian Herzl has done a really good job down there, and I think that. The thing is with Brighton, at this moment in time, they're managing to do what Southampton did, which is sell players for a huge profit and keep the conveyor belt going with players coming through who are, through their academy and their youth teams. And it's amazing to see that, I think what could decide this game is literally who Eddie Howe puts out. And I know that sounds obvious, but we've got a lot of players who have been on international duty. The midfield is obviously going to be the key, and I guess the full-back slot's the problem. Tino and Lewis Hall both injured means that it is very likely that Dan Burn will play left-back. So Dan Burn's going to play left-back. You would imagine that Yankuba Minte is going to be up against him. That's going to be the big issue. He needs the support of Anthony Gordon on that left-hand side. He needs to be really putting a shift in defensively this game today. Now, Gordon's been superb for England, and the effort he's been putting in for England's been superb. So if we see the same Anthony Gordon that wears the white of England, I think we'll be okay. I predicted a 2-1 win on the Amigos this week and on Super Mac and Gibbo's show this week. I'm not going to change from that. I do feel that Nick Voldemort is in good form, and I think he's going to cause them trouble. But I also think Gordon has had that taste of it. England are going to the World Cup, and I think he's going to want to now prove to everybody that he can do it at club level. So I think Newcastle will break the jinx down there this weekend, and I do feel that we'll get 3 points. I don't think it'll be pretty, but I don't think Newcastle will get anything other than 3 points this weekend. I'm optimistic. I'll put it that way. I'm not overly confident, but we will have decisions to make. But it will depend on the team. Miley could come in, of course, for Bruno or Joe Linton. That's the big thing. But yeah, Miley's not injured, Trolls. No, it was confirmed that he's okay yesterday. But yeah, I think it's an interesting game, Ted, and it's an interesting game for both teams because Sunderland Wolves is fascinating. That's after losing at Man United, this is a game where you need to bounce back, and if they don't bounce back, then yeah. So it's two interesting games of the teams. This next 7 games in 10 days for Newcastle will shape our season.
But yeah, I was looking at this, and it's one of those where it's a very, very interesting style of game where Brighton have that edge on form, certainly at home against you. And I was starting to think, I think somebody else mentioned about potentially playing 3 centre backs and maybe Anthony Gordon kind of getting up and down the wing. He's got the kind of engine that can do it. He's one of those who can put a tackle in as well, albeit sometimes not very well timed, and he ends up getting a red card. But there's something about him where I think there's more to Anthony Gordon's game, and I think he's got a little bit of flexibility about him where he can actually play that kind of role as well. Which for an England manager going into a big tournament like the World Cup, is that something that Anthony Gordon you think has got in his game? Is it something that could be looked at?
Yeah, I just think with Anthony Gordon, he just thinks too much. I think he's a deep thinker, and I think that sometimes he should just concentrate on letting just letting his talent flow, you know what I mean, and not put himself under so much pressure. So I think the less he thinks about things, I think he'd be okay. That's what I would think. So yeah, I just think that he's got to really focus on the positive place he finds himself in, and concentrate on doing what he does at a national level for Newcastle, and I think the rest will take care of itself. It's interesting the stat today as well that Craig Pawson's the referee, because he was the referee last season when we had that bizarre scenario of being awarded 3 penalties. Only one of them survived VAR scrutiny. So that will be interesting with Craig Pawson in charge. But yeah, I do think Newcastle will get 3 points, and I just think a 2-1 win. I think is where we're at, and I think we'll do well, mate.
Well, I'm going to go with Roger, and I'm going to go with Supermac, and I'm going to say a 1-1. That's a steamed company there with Roger and Supermac, so I don't think I can be too far off the pace for that one. Yeah, one's each, I think, mate. I think it's they are a tough nut to crack. I think going away to Brighton and getting a draw is not a bad result at all. And certainly when it comes to our turn, we'll snap anybody's hand off for a point down there, without a doubt. We're pretty much halfway through, mate. So I believe it's Jules' favourite point of the show. Is that right?
It is. Here's the cat. Yes, some great tweets. Alexander Isak's getting some stick, mind, and that's really great. Charlie Bennett takes the credit for this one. Newcastle sold Liverpool to a top-of-the-range iPhone in Alexander Isak, but kept hold of the charger. I think that was a great quote.
Very good, I like that.
Lots of people have used that. Sammy says, once he adapts to the league, it's over for everyone. I can't breathe. This is the first time I've seen a Premier proven league player having to adapt to a league he's been in for 3 years, which is true. True Geordie said, Sweden's manager backed Isak going on strike in the summer. Isak arrived unfit for World Cup qualifiers and failed to score in all 3 games. Sweden lost every game, costing the manager his job. I wonder if he still agrees with him going on strike. And footage of Isak in international duty is...
wow.
And this was brilliant as well. Alexander Isak's goal-scoring record since joining Liverpool for 125 million. Wow. There he is as well. He's looking a bit overweight. Look well. It's not just him who's been getting some stick this week. David Blaine's furious. His record of doing Sweet FA in the box for 44 days has been smashed by Florian Wirtz, apparently, at Liverpool. And Lee Hinton loved this. 21:45 kick-off in Latvia. 23:55 exit the ground. 3:35 arrive at Vilnius Airport after 3 hours 30 drive. 5:55 fly back to Luton. 6:30 land back at Luton. Now for the drive to the office for 9 a.m. Potentially my quickest England away turnaround yet. Impressive, mate.
That is seriously impressive, that.
And John, you're not registered, mate. So if you get booked during the match, your name is Ahmed.
That's so close to a lot of what we've seen in Sunday League.
We've all played ringers in Sunday League.
Absolutely, yeah.
And my husband is a player. Please, what can I do? Loan him out to Manchester United. We need some serious players. Get back to Sunday League as well. I've all done this on a Sunday morning as well, I bet.
The good
Fantastic.
old days.
The good old days, yeah. And salt and pepper chicken and chips for only £10 while watching football, says Steve. Austin, Christ, where is he? Sat on the roof. Yep, it's at St James's.
I'll tell you what, though, that looks all right, that.
That is the food you get at St James's, yeah. It is a lot better.
Decent.
Callum Lyon, I love this. The year is 2037. Nobody can afford to buy a house. You now need ID just to leave the house. The retirement age has been raised to 90. Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday as the national anthem. Pints are now £26 each, but only in Wetherspoons. They're £35 everywhere else. The HS2 still isn't finished. Freddo's cost £22. England still haven't won a World Cup. It now takes 6 hours of constant calling to get through to your GP. The DFS sale is still on. And they're still doing roadworks on the motorway. Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Thank you for making me laugh, Callum, this week. That was brilliant. Something else which was a laugh and made Eddie Howe's press conference was this one. Newcastle United midfielder Joe Willock, 26, had to be rescued from York Maze after a distress call to emergency services was made at around 5 p.m. on Tuesday. He'd been lost in UK's largest maze for approximately 6 hours. That was brilliant, that. To think
Is that true?
No. Somebody put it on social media as a laugh this week, and the BBC actually reported it as fact. Then TalkSport talked about it. You had numerous people on radio talking about it, thinking it was a fact. This all stemmed from him breaking down and having to change a tyre on the coast road in Newcastle. And then people just came up with this ludicrous story, and it went, and the media ran with it. Unbelievable, mate. This was brilliant. The mascots for England against Wales being adults suffering with Alzheimer's dementia. Definitely the most beautiful thing in football. Lovely for a while. And I don't think you get anybody disagreeing with that. This was brilliant. Close me Barclays account. I will not fund these lot. Bloke on the phone said they had loads do the same. 6 in a row. FTM. Dear me, just because we've announced the sponsor. How son? Get a grip. And this caused massive debate amongst our fan base, Newcastle and Sunderland. This tattoo. Anybody seen this tattoo in the chat? That's the Tyne Bridge. I don't care what anybody says. That is the Tyne Bridge, Ted. That is not the WSA Bridge. There is.
I think he got it off the Great North Run medal.
I knew you'd come up with that argument. So there we go. That is the cat for this week. If you've got any, send them over to Ted, me, or Rye, and we'll feature them next week for Jules.
So just before we go into the Sunderland review against Wolves for today, like again that everybody's saying we should win comfortably, I'm not so sure about that. I'll tell you why very shortly. During the week, it's Founders Week at Sunderland AFC, so we're kind of celebrating the history of the club and some of the great characters that's pulled the shirt on. And there was a talk in during the week, Steve, with Peter Reid and Kevin Ball, who. Two absolute icons of the club. Certainly, late 90s, early 2000s, really guided us to our highest ever Premier League finishes, 7th twice in a row. Obviously, the fans absolutely delighted to see them. Peter Reid still just holds the club in so much affection and regard, and say the pride he feels for being the last manager at Roker Park, the first manager at the Stadium of Light. A great footballing character, but both him and Kevin Ball, proper footballing hard men. And, that's something that we've seen. And I think it's kind of why we like Granit Xhaka, is there's a little bit of an echo about that, a little bit of nastiness about him. But it's still, for me, it's nothing like what it used to be. I mean, I think Lee Cattermole and Lorik Sana were probably the two last real hard cases we had. Bally, obviously, there's one of my favourite clips of him is the tackle he goes in with Duncan Ferguson, in the derby, where he actually hits his own crossbar, that he hits the tackle that hard. You just don't see it anymore. And obviously, the rules have changed and players are protected a little bit more. But it just got me thinking about the favourite hard men. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of comments in here of players we've all loved over the past. Sam Allardyce was another one. Gary Bennett for us. And when I think of like the Newcastle ones, for me, in my lifetime, I can't think of a tougher player than Kilcline for Newcastle. Is that about where the pinnacle lies with football and hard men?
I think with Killer, there's no doubt Killer was definitely up there with. I mean, he was one of Kevin Keegan's best signings. Brian Kilcline was one of those people who, he'd been there, done it, got the T-shirt, but he won the FA Cup, didn't he? With
Coventry.
Coventry City. I mean, he was captain of the team, but he came in with such, with such a great reputation. But yeah, he grabbed the team by the scruff of the neck, and he did so well. But yeah, I think on top of that, we had John Anderson, another one who probably springs to mind. Ando, he was absolutely superb. David McCreary back in the 80s as well, another one, and Billy Whitehurst, I think, was an absolute heed the ball for both Newcastle and Sunderland.
Yes.
Yeah, David Barry, Malcolm Allen in the Entertainers, certainly. Billy Whitehurst was a thug, says Graham. But yeah, I mean, those kind of players were like, they were an acquired taste. And I guess the person who didn't play for either of our clubs, but everybody remembers is Vinnie Jones. Vinnie Jones was, the man who got the quickest sending off in the Premier League. I think it was something like 18 seconds against Sheffield United. And he just made a career of it after that, He became like one of the biggest. But there's been some great ones over the years. Steve McMahon was probably the Liverpool one for me. He was dirty. There was that infamous moment when Wimbledon won the cup final where Vinnie took McMahon out early doors and cut him under the eye, and you never saw McMahon for the rest of the game. That was almost like changing of the guard. Roy Keane, I thought he had a cheek slagging Shearer the other week for being a cheat, like and being sneaky because he was sneaky. You know what I mean? And for me, Keane epitomised that, and it was him against Vieira. It was a fascinating battle every time Man U played Arsenal back in the day. But yeah, I mean, I've got a good relationship with Kevin Ball. I've got to meet Bally many times, and I've worked with Bally on the talking circuit. I like him a lot. Gary Bennett wasn't one to be messed with.
David Speedy.
David Speedy. Exactly. You see, Speedy and Wise were slippery, slimy characters. Like for me, on the football pitch, they weren't hard men. But every team needed one. Paul McGrath. There's another
player, man.
There's another one who not only could he play football, and yes, Graham, I would. Joe Linton, Newcastle's enforcer, is probably what he's become in that midfield. Big Duncan Ferguson's another one from Newcastle. Yeah, he was just an absolute. You wouldn't burgle his house, would you?
No.
Muscat. But yeah, look, I mean, there's some great names. There's some great names there, and there's been some great, but there were characters as well.
Yeah. And the play.
John Bailey at Everton, who came to Newcastle probably when he wasn't at his best. John Bailey was another one who you wouldn't mess with. There's some good fullbacks.
Oh, absolutely, mate. Like you say, though, I mean, even the likes of we had Mick Harford towards the end of his career. For all he is a Sunderland guy, and I mean, the reverence that he's talking about as being a football and hard man is very, very well documented. But they could all play, Steve. That's the difference, and I think that's kind of Vinnie Jones for me, not a great player by any stretch of the imagination. Good leader, but a dirty player. The likes of the top end of those, with the likes of Graham Souness, who could actually play the game of football, and Harford could, and Kilcline, fantastic defender. It's something that's missing out the game now. I think we have got it now. I am looking forward to the derby from the respect of I can't wait for our two midfielders to get stuck into each other. Really can't. I think the likes of Bruno and Joe Linton going against the likes of Diarra and Xhaka, it's definitely not going to finish 11 aside. That's absolutely a given. It's just going to be great fun to watch it and actually get a feel of proper physical battles again in football, which I personally miss seeing it. You see some of the tackles going in last night, and we've both played Sunday League and had much worse than what was going on last night, and got up and not even had the gumption to say anything to the referee about it. So it's something, like I say, with the old school hard men, something that's missing out the game. But let's hope Xhaka and Joe Linton bring a bit of it back.
Joe Allen described Mick Harford as he's as hard as goat's knees.
Beautiful. Joe Allen is a poet, like it's got to be said, and a comedian, to be fair to him. So yeah, I suppose on the subject of Mackems and all that sort of thing, and tough game against Wolves, mate, because I don't think they're as bad as what a lot of people are making out. And
no, they're not.
Some of our learned viewers on here are sharing that, mate. I'll let you speak first, because you defended them, and I think it was, I'm forgetting who they played against, where you commented saying
they're
going to come back up the table shortly. So
yeah, we played them. We only
played
them. We only played them 4 weeks ago, and it was a very, very tough game. Wolves came with a game plan. They came obviously to defend from the back, but they've got some big units. That's the thing that you have to be aware of. But yeah, I wasn't too concerned before the game. I felt this was the game where Newcastle were going to win 2 or 3-0, but we do tend to struggle in those games, and it took the Nick Voldemort goal in the 29th minute to separate the two teams. But yeah, they try to play football, but they've got a good defensive shape, and I think he used his substitutions well as well. I don't think that I genuinely don't think that they will go down. And yeah, I wouldn't say I was massively impressed, but they're a dangerous team. Gomez isn't a bad player. He's
Strand Larsen obviously was on the Newcastle radar.
Yeah, I think Gomez just finds space. I do think he's one of those players that can find space. And I just listen. Wolves have done what other teams have done in recent years, like Brighton, like Bournemouth, like Southampton did. They've literally sold players. Owners have sold players, and hoped that the next players coming through would be as good as the ones that have sold, and it hasn't happened. This is Wolves are in a dangerous position again. But I do think they will be all right. Today is going to be a fascinating game from a Sunderland perspective, because you have to bounce back. If you're hoping to finish in that top half, you need to win games like this. So it's going to be interesting. It is going to be an interesting game. I'm still not convinced that it's going to be an easy game for you guys. I think you've got to be aware of that. So yeah. It is going to be interesting, and how defeat has affected the team, because Sunderland are used to winning. At this moment in time, they're used to getting the points in the Premier League. They've found it easy so far. So yeah, Larson is the striker to watch if he's fit, says Tom. But yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting game, mate. Yeah, 100%. So yeah, tread with caution with this one, I think.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think it'll be quite a tight game. But what we have got at this moment in time is a bit of a feel-good factor at home, whereas we're very, very difficult to beat. The weird one for us today, though, is Wolves are not used to having a great amount of the ball, and neither are we. We're kind of both a little bit counter-attacking in style. So it could be one of those, hopefully it's not the case, but it could be one of those where both teams cancel each other out. But what we have got, obviously, is Isidore, who just loves scoring at home at this moment in time. So we've got that little bit of quality where we can cause these teams trouble. I think Wolves are going to look at this as, I think Wolves are probably looking at that game kind of thinking, well, here's our chance to bounce back and grab 3 points on the road, 3 precious points. But I just think we've got a little bit quality about us. And the Man United game hurt us a little bit, and I think Regis Labrise maybe got the shape of the side wrong. We finished the game a hell of a lot better than what we started it, that's for sure. So, yeah, going back at home, full house again today. I actually fancy us, mate. The squad's starting to take shape a little bit. We've got good characters in and around the team. We've got that feeling that we're always going to grab a late goal as well. And that at home especially, it's a feeling we haven't had, certainly for me, since the days of Kevin Phillips, where you kind of expected, right, we've still got Phillips's goal to come, but it still feels like we've got a late goal, and usually Isidore's going to score one. So I actually, while I know it's going to be a tough game, I can just see us edging this one, to be honest with you. And I'm going to stick out on a limb. I think there'll be I could see no definite goals, 0-0 incoming. Yeah, you're probably right. But I'm going to stick my neck out. I am actually going to go for a 2-1 win for Sunderland today. I think we'll squeak it. I think it'll be difficult to keep a clean sheet, especially with somebody like Strand Larsen. Tom, you mentioned it before. He's a fantastic striker. There's a reason why top clubs are looking at him. So yeah, he might be wanting to get on the score sheet, but I just feel we've got a little bit too much about us right now, and I think we'll edge them out and pick up the 3 points and hopefully keep us ahead of the Geordies for now in the Premier League. But Premier League to one side, mate. You've got a special visitor coming on Tuesday of next week. That's probably enough of a clue to let us know who it is. But the special one brings Benfica to town. A manager that you were linked with not that long ago when the pressure was on Eddie Howe, and it was known that the owners had a bit of an interest in him. We'll cover the game, and obviously I want you to preview that as well, mate. But your take on Jose, and is he still all that? Was he ever all that, or was he just lucky with the amount of money he had to sign? No pressure at all on that one.
I think I think he was the special one. I think he had his time though, and I think I've pointed this out on numerous occasions. I do feel that the argument that he had on TV with the female doctor or physio or whatever she was that time, I don't think he ever recovered from that. He got a lot of stick from it, and it was almost like the I don't know, that the bubble had been broken around him, and then like the mask had slipped. Jose has never won at St James's Park, Graham. You are right, and he has been, but he has had such a wonderful career. I would say that he's probably a better manager than Pep Guardiola in terms of Premiership wins, because he had the money at Chelsea, but I just think he did it with a bit more style and a bit more about him. But he's one of football's characters. He's one of football's characters, and I think the fact that he's done it in multiple leagues and he's won trophies in different countries is great. He's always going to have a soft spot for Newcastle. And I think Newcastle fans probably have a little bit of a soft spot for him because of his connection with Sir Bobby Robson. I think that's, he was his protege. And Jose, in a lot of those videos that Craig's talking about, that most of us will have seen, the way that he was looking at Bobby was like a father and a son. So yeah, I do think that Moreno has been there, done it, got the T-shirt, but I do think his time has passed. This is a must-win game for Newcastle because they've managed to get their first points on the road, which is great. Their first ever Champions League win on the road. Now they need to back that up with a win at home. And you know what? 6 points on the board. 3 games in the Champions League. We could be talking about getting through the next stages. It's a massive positive. It's a huge game. It's every bit as important as the game in Brighton today. But Newcastle really need to win that game if they're going to continue in the Champions League. And they're not going to get a better opportunity. Benfica, I think they're not a bad team, but they are pointless after their first 2 games, and that's a chance for Newcastle to jump on it and give a bit more pain to Jose Mourinho and take charge at St James's Park. It's that horrendous saying, under the lights. I hate it, but it will be under the lights. It will be a good atmosphere
on the grass.
And I'm just hoping that Newcastle can do what they need to do, and that's get 3 points. But yeah, huge game. Really looking forward to it. And it'll be a full house, and Benfica will enjoy the atmosphere. Interesting that Jose's decided not to train on the pitch. Clearly doesn't want to see have anyone have a chance of seeing what he's got like up his sleeve. He's done it before. He's trained at Newcastle before, but not this time. So change of plan. They were originally going to do it, but it's a change of plan. So, I think it's going to be a win for Newcastle. It's our 8th competitive home fixture against a side from Portugal, and if you believe in fate, we haven't lost one against the Portuguese side. The last time we played Benfica, we drew 1-1, which was in 2012-13. That was 1-1 with Cisse scoring the goal. In the same year, we played Maritimo. We drew 1-1 with them. Marvel scored that goal. We played Sporting Lisbon back in 2004-2005. We drew 1-1 with them. Bellamy scored the goal, and I think we also beat Sporting Lisbon with a goal from Shearer. And of course, you go back to the Fairs Cup days, 68-69. We beat Sporting Lisbon 1-0. Pop Robson scored. And then we played Vitoria Setúbal. We won 5-1, and Davies, Foggin, Gibb and Pop Robson with a brace in that game. To finish the fixtures off, we played Porto in 69-70, and we won 1-0 with Scott getting the goal. We've got a good record against Portuguese side, and I'm going to go for a Newcastle win. I'm going to go for a solid performance at the back and a 1-0 win for Newcastle in that game.
Well, after you've explained that about the magnificent record, I've got to go for a 1-0 Benfica win, haven't I? But no, listen, I mean, I got pulled up. I'm not saying Jose has been lucky. There's a lot of haters out there, probably Spurs fans, to be fair, like who will say, well, he's always had decent squads and he's had money to spend. For me, I think there was a time where Mourinho was the best manager on the planet, without a shadow of a doubt. I love what he's done with the whole, right, well, we're not going to train at St. James's Park. I nearly said Stadium of Light because it's in front of me. I'm so sorry.
The original one that Benfica have, of course.
Stadio de Luge. Yes, absolutely. I think it's a little bit of mind games again. It's Jose just being Jose. I don't think he's going to turn out a side that's going to play 4 up front and play expansive football. So it's going to be very much park the bus and a typical Jose away performance. It's going to be one of those where you've just got to wait and be patient, Steve, I guess. Man U sacked him now. Look at them. Yeah, you're right there, Davey. He should have been hired instead of Moyes, to be honest, at Manchester United. That's when the timing would have been perfect for that. But yeah, getting back to the game, the no pushover, as somebody's already mentioned, they're actually unbeaten in the league. It was Tom who mentioned that. They haven't lost a game yet. There's going to be... It's just one of those, mate, where you're expected to win it. It's a game where, yes, you should be looking to progress and all that, but it's Benfica, it's Jose. There's just a little bit of niggle and a bit of it could be a dull game and just silence the crowd a little bit. So yeah, listen, in all honesty, I think Newcastle will probably edge it. I'm going the same as you. I think it'll be a 1-0 win, but it's just going to be one of those where he might just get one over on you. And you've got to be careful with Jose because there's still something left in the tank there. Would you have liked to have seen him at Newcastle?
I think years ago it would have been great to come in as a Newcastle manager, but in the times that we've been linked with him, no, and certainly not. The clamour for like a Mancini or a Mourinho or a big name to come in and be Newcastle manager. It's never appealed to me, simply because those managers demand ridiculous amounts of money to spend each transfer window, and it was never going to be possible. Mancini wasn't going to be able to come in and spend 200 million a window, and likewise Mourinho. They do rely on having money to spend, so never going to happen as far as Newcastle were concerned. It's all built on that emotional connection with Sir Bobby Robson, and whilst I get it. That's not really the reason to give him the job at St James's Park. But and plus, on top of that, the fact he's never won at St James's Park doesn't bode well for him if he became a Newcastle manager, does it really?
Yeah,
he'd not win a game as a home manager.
Well, we'll see. Listen, I think like you say, he's had his day, but for anybody that kind of likes to take the swipe that he's been lucky and just it's been because of the money at staff, because he changed the art of football in the Premier League. He became much more about the park the bus and about great defending. The likes of the Carvalho and Terry that he had together. He kind of made it a little bit more boring. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, they were just so hard to beat. And somebody who likes watching defenders, I think Mourinho brought a lot to the game in that respect. Management would have undercut the special one in the last regime, like they did King Kev. Yeah, I think that's probably a decent shout. Just one more comment, Davey T. I think it's a decent one. This as well. I still think we're a bit naive in how to play good European sides, dark arts, and all that. That's where experience is going to come in, Steve, against these teams, isn't it? Where you need the likes of Bruno and Tonali, especially, is nous of the European game, and using that experience not to get sucked in, to be patient, wait for your opportunities and take them. Are you right?
I've not seen this player. To be honest, I didn't watch that game, so I'm afraid no is the answer, no. Stephen. But yeah, thanks, mate. Great show, and hopefully Rye might bother his horse next week.
Well, you never know. It'd be nice to see him, wouldn't it?
Yeah, would be. Good stuff, mate. Well done. Great show.
And you. Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody, for joining in, watching, listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Steve and NUFC Matters and myself, Ted the Mackham. And, of course, Rye at Invictus, and try and encourage him to come back and stop working too hard.
Good stuff. See you next week.
See you later, buddy.
I better play the right music.
Oh, no.
I was very, very close to playing the wrong music there, but nobody noticed.
Three's a Crowd podcast will return. That's not a threat, it's a promise.